Hey folks, today we're covering Tinto Talks 83, and that's going to cover a late game mechanic, the Revolution, which also gives its name to the Age of Revolutions, the last age of the game as well. And this is going to cover how they work in your realm, the events around it, and then also the structural content that you'll see as well. So the revolution in EU5 is a disaster that can happen to a settled country that is a great power, that has embraced the Enlightenment institution and has an average literacy higher than 50%, and whose peasant estate satisfaction is low, or whose peasant or burgher estate is taxed heavily. So a couple of different ways this can play out. I do think most of those requirements probably going to be hit in most of your campaigns. It depends what you're doing. We've talked about this before, like how high you want to get your literacy. You may think your literacy being very high is very good, but in some situations you actually want to keep your population not that smart, or maybe just certain parts of your realm not that smart, so that they don't get ideas above their station and think of revolution. So the size of the revolution depends on many factors, such as stability, absolutism, literacy, and discontent. So again, all these different areas of the game that can affect it. And you can see the event here: Insurrection in Paris, King Philippe VI, decades of feudal oppression, religious intolerance, and unjust taxation have all contributed to the revolutionary moments beginning to surface across our lands. And obviously France being the main example of this historically, I suppose, and the one they're going to base a lot of this around in this dev diary, and you'll see that as we go through. So dire times are ahead for us, and then you can see what this does. -20 stability, approximately 1.1 million population across 8 provinces will join the French revolutionaries. Prosperity in Paris will decrease by 15%. And then the French revolutionaries, they will create a civil war, and they will obviously also become revolutionary as well. And then you can see the definition of this next. The revolution is a unique transformation of the society of a country during the Age of Revolutions. States that go through the revolution and fail to defend their absolute state become revolutionary, granting them access to powerful actions, reforms, and laws at the cost of becoming a potential target of non-revolutionary states. So as they say here, there are going to be special actions, reforms, laws, very similar to situations we've seen through all these dev diaries. But then also the other non-revolutionary states, they're going to look at you and say, we don't want this spreading, as happened historically. We want to protect our monarchies, so we might get a grand alliance or something, and then come up against you, stop you being revolutionary, and maybe get a monarchy back in that country as well. Again, very similar things happened historically. So a follow-up event to this could be this one, the French Revolution. You can see King Philippe VI, and then the leader of the French revolutionaries. After the storm and fall of Paris, the French revolutionaries have declared a civil war against the king. The French revolutionaries might be nothing but a provincial assembly, but its very presence is a very real threat to the Kingdom of France. We must show these upstarts their place, or perhaps they are right. And if you choose that option, you can play as the revolutionaries. So you don't have to stay as your realm. You can switch over and play as the revolutionaries, try and win that war, and then you play as them. Now, the thing is, as we've discussed through all these dev diaries again, is if you play as the monarchy and lose, your game doesn't end. You will then just play as revolutionary France. So again, there's different ways you can play this out. Do you want to lead the revolution? Do you want to try protect against it? Are you going to save the game and make sure you win, and then, carry on your game? Or if you lose to the revolutionaries, are you going to save scum and go back to your earlier save? And then the next event they're going to show us the Revolution in French Revolutionaries. Bit of a weird title, but that's what it says. As the world around us erupts into revolutionary fervor, the winds of change reach even the furthest corners of the Republic. We fight for the people. This is obviously if you're playing as the revolutionaries. For as long as we are revolutionary, we will receive the following benefits: 25% more manpower, 25% army morale, and then -5 maximum war exhaustion. So obviously you need a little bit of a boost as the revolutionaries. You are going up against, France and his allies probably. So these are going to help you have a bigger army, a better army, and then also that war exhaustion, a very bad modifier in EU5. It wasn't too bad in EU4. I know it wasn't ideal, but in EU5 it really causes you problems. So having -5 of that is a great thing to have. And then if you do continue playing as the revolutionaries, you'll have to fight and win the civil war to proceed. While if you keep playing as the regular country, so in this example as France, you'll get this disaster instead. So you can see the Kingdom of France gains stability investment -1. Population leave rebels threshold +10%, so making it less stable, and then also your population more likely to be in the rebels as well. You can see the different requirements, and then in the next screen you see the situation panel for this revolution in France, the king and the leader of the revolutionaries, the end requirements we just saw as well. You can see the military strength. It's a bit weird how it shows here. I think they use console commands to get it, but it would show you the percentage of how strong each side is. And then each month, 1% chance of clashing authority event happening, and then 99% of no effect tied to this happening as well. There are other events, I'm going to cover that later on, but directly linked to it in a way. And then as we discussed, if the revolutionaries win either through you playing as them or losing to them as the king, you will get rise of the French revolutionary state. And you can see that happening here with the victory of our revolutionary forces. The old government is no more. Whatever semblance of unity and protection it once provided is a long gone memory, whilst its horrors and mismanagement of the French people still linger to this day. And you can see long live the revolution. If you choose this option, well, it's the only option actually. You'll gain 2.5 stability, 5 Republican tradition, and then you can see 2 things related to your parliament. We will add constitutional state government reform, so that will change in this example France to a constitutional state instead of a monarchy. And then you'll also set the parliament type to constitutional parliament as well. So that is a different version of the parliament. You get different bonuses, different effects depending on which kind of parliament. That was covered in a previous dev diary in the series as well. The next event you're going to see is the French Revolution. Driven by widespread discontent against the monarchy, economic hardship and social equality, our people have finally undone their shackles and taken power into their own hands. And then again, as this is based on a historical event, you can see in the blue background text there at the bottom, what happened historically, onward to spread the ideals of the revolution. And then you can see what this does once you hit this stage of the revolution. During the People's Uprising situation, nearly every monarchy will have their rule challenged by the people and those oppressed by the feudal status quo. Countries that follow the revolution will be able to assist their comrades at home and abroad through unique actions. Countries that seek to crush it will get a special Crush the Revolution casus belli and new actions as well. They're going to cover those in the dev diary. If you are on the side of the revolution, you can spread that to other countries, try cause some problems for them, so they then also become revolutionary. And if you're on the other side, as it says, you can get a casus belli and then attack France or wherever this happens and try crush that system so it doesn't spread further and further across the game map as well. You'll also gain access to new actions such as institute governmental purges, demote local aristocracy, and other actions through the situation panel as they've shown off previously. So depending on which side of this you're on, if you are a revolutionary, if you are a monarchy, or some other kind of government that don't want this to spread, you will have different ways to play out. Again, this is the final age of the game, kind of like the end boss of EU5 is trying to deal with a lot of these mechanics. Depending on which side you're on, which way you want to spread this. Maybe you want a revolutionary England, maybe you want a monarchy, maybe you want a revolutionary Hungary or a monarchy. You can decide which way you want to go, depending on where this does spread out as well. So the great power that triggers the revolution is to be its herald, but if more countries become revolutionary, the strongest of these will become the revolutionary target, giving it a bonus. You're like the leader of the revolutionaries, herald of the revolution. You can see this here. The time has come and the world is changing. Across Europe, the old orders of monarchies and aristocracies are crumbling under the weight of revolutionary ideas, and you can say, we will defend our ideals. So you're like the leader of all the revolutionary realms. So you can see here, for as long as we remain the revolutionary target, we will gain the benefits of being a revolutionary as well. So again, you can see here, manpower plus 10%, army morale plus 10%, maximum war exhaustion -5. So some nice bonuses here, because you're probably going to be the target of these monarchies trying to take you out. And then, as I said, you will be the revolutionary target. This is the beating heart of the revolution and the most powerful revolutionary country as well. And the next they're going to show us the situation around this. So the People's Uprising, wealth equality and a declining standard of living and increased literacy have led to the rise of individual awareness. And you'll see this happen once we enter this stage of the revolution. You can see the situation panel for this. In this example, it is France. As they're going to cover later on, it isn't always going to be France. Obviously, that's the historical one. Most of you probably know, but a different realm can have this. You could have revolutionary Naples, revolutionary Portugal. One of these other realms can be the leader of the revolutions, where it even starts, and then see how they lead the revolutionary nations, and see if you can overcome the alliance that will spring up against you. You can see more information around this here. So end requirements, all great powers are not revolutionary, or no countries currently in the revolution disaster. And then next you can see the rebels active in this country. And then, as they were discussing earlier, all these different main actions you can take. So institute purges, suppress foreign revolutionaries, assist foreign revolutionaries, obviously depending on which side you're on, elevate the local aristocracy, demote the local aristocracy, re-establish the parliament, or spread revolutionary sentiment as well. Depending again on which side of this situation you're on, you're going to want to do some of these things, try spread it, see what chaos you can cause in your campaigns. And then, as we've seen with other dev diaries as well, this new hint system they have, it will obviously hint to you what you want to do if you are in this situation. So you can see here, recommended actions. We can become revolutionary by siding with revolutionary rebels during the revolution disaster. This situation enables 2 unique peace treaties, reinstate the monarchy, and force revolutions. All these realms kind of fighting each other at this point, trying to enforce the revolution or reinstate the monarchy on places that have had the revolution. And then as we saw before, the situation offers access to new actions such as suppress foreign revolutionaries and assist foreign revolutionaries, again, depending on which side you're on. And then all those blue and yellow terms you can see there, they are tooltips. So you can hover over those in game and it will give you more information. So you're not having to dig through wikis, things like that. So you can see in game, what does this action mean? What does it do? Why would I want to do this? And also kind of work towards being able to do it better if you are trying to do so as well. So while this situation is active, countries will experience events that shift society. You can either attempt to snuff out the revolutionary characters from the court through the Institute Government Purges action, or once you are revolutionary, spread and fund similarly minded rebels in foreign countries through the Spread Revolutionary Sentiment action. And you can see an example of this here. This is trying to push it on Castile. The struggle of the foreign folk to undo their chains is a long and arduous process. Oftentimes we must act as outside factors and nudge a foreign nation into embracing our ideas in service of the greater purpose. So this is where you're trying to affect Castile, try push them to become revolutionary as well, and they'll help you fight off the monarchies trying to reverse the course of the revolution. And you can see an example of this in the next event. France fans the flames of revolution. Say that 5 times fast. Whispers of unrest have grown louder in our crown, and now the truth begins to surface. It is believed that France is spreading the revolution into the Castilian lands. Those meddling revolutionaries, Castilian revolutionaries get 10% progress. Approximately, it says 0k, obviously it would be a percentage here, of population across 15 provinces will join the cause of the Castilian revolutionaries. And then as France, you keep trying to do this. Maybe you've got France and Naples again, all revolutionary. They can all be trying to push this on another realm, destabilize somewhere. They then get a civil war, and then you can either help the revolutionaries, or I guess you could use it as like a little bit of a sneaky way to break up a realm for a little bit, and you can try rush in and grab some land as well. Again, if it's France trying to do it to Castile, or probably more likely Spain at this point, maybe Portugal would take advantage of this and try spread into some of those Spanish lands as well. So again, all the different areas of Europe in this example are going to be destabilized. You can take advantage of this, even if you aren't directly affected by it yourself. Monarchies can also fight the revolutionaries through the Crush the Revolution CB, or the War Against the Revolutionary Country event. So obviously that would be War Against the French revolutionaries, depending on which realm you are attacking. This will rally allied monarchies to join the fight. If the revolutionary target is at peace, the monarchy that received the War Against the Revolutionary Country event will start a new war. So there are so many ways you can get that war started. Alternatively, if the revolutionary target is already defending against another monarchy using the same CB, the monarchy country that receives this event and their allies will join the existing war instead. So again, really bringing in like these grand alliances just due to these events triggering in different countries. So instead of France in this example fighting like 6 different wars, it would be like happened historically for the most part. They all allied together into one big war and then try fight back against France. And you can see an example of this here. 2 arms. We declare the Crush Revolutionary War on France. Andorra, the Papal States, and Bohemia are all going to get this event. And then if they join it, they will then all join your war instead. So then France is fighting a war on many fronts, and you'll see how that plays out for you as well. You can see another example of this here. To arms, we will join the Second Castilian-French War on the side of the Crown of Castile, and then Castile will gain 20 opinion of the Kingdom of Portugal, and then again, you'll see these wars against revolutionary French Republic and the other side of what we just saw. So the first one was joining it on one side. This example is joining it in defense against the revolutionaries and trying to fight this back in this example as well. So these kind of temporary alliances springing up as different realms get attacked, defend, as they get these events kind of pushing them into warfare, you'll get these weird alliances forming that maybe historically, or maybe even during your campaign, you're not friends with the English, but due to this event, you temporarily come together and then fight against the French and see if you can win as well. So revolutionary countries also experience a unique disaster, the revolutionary chaos. This disaster may occur in a revolutionary country whose stability and republican values have been eroded significantly. Obviously, very famous examples of this happening in France. So you can see the UI for this, revolutionary chaos, France, some very nice art here, and then you can see the end requirements, and then each month there are different events. 94% nothing will happen, and then 1% of a bunch of different events here. Social reform, the Republic's bureaucracy, the reign of terror in France. Obviously, if it isn't in France, it would be the reign of terror in England or something along those lines. And you'll see the kind of infighting of the revolutionaries as they try blaming other people maybe if the war isn't going too well for them. And you can see another example of this UI here, the Revolutionary Chaos Disaster, Revolutionary French Republic with a very nice flag there, Monthly Republican Tradition -0.2, so again, pushing that even worse and worse and then you can see the different requirements for that as well. In the next screenshot, they're going to show an event around this. So chaos in the revolutionary French Republic. Those who thought that the revolution and the republic would be the answers to the instability of France are becoming more and more disillusioned. And then you can see the two options: the revolution must prevail or take a more conservative approach in our situation. You see, if the revolutionary must prevail, we will side with the revolution, enabling events around opposing the monarchy's return. We will gain sided with the revolution until the end of this event. It does say the end of the game. This generally means the end of this situation. I'm not sure why it's worded that way all the time, but it doesn't mean literally to the end of the game in most cases. Once you get out of the revolution, that bonus probably does go away. Although maybe in this example, it does stick around for a while. You'll also lose 50 stability, which is a lot of stability, so you're not going to be doing this very lightly. And then you will change your societal values towards plutocracy and away from aristocracy. And obviously it's just siding more and more with the people and seeing if you can survive if it isn't going too well for you. And then on top of how this structurally plays and how the disaster system works, this disaster also features ambitious characters with great skills, almost Napoleon-esque if you think about it. Well, wait, that's the example they're going to show us here. So here is Bonaparte, sporting some very interesting glasses. I think he's been playing Crusader Kings 3 a bit too much and thought that looked stylish. The case of the revolution and the threats of foreign intervention have given ambitious young officers a chance to shine, and that is how Napoleon started his rise. And you can see let us witness his achievements. And then the character, I think he looks quite good, doesn't he? Corsican, Lutheran, 100, 100, 100. Literally the best you can be in the game. A bunch of traits that he has as well, where he currently is, and then you can also get other historical figures as well. So Robespierre here, the reign of terror in France. Not everyone is happy with the course of the revolution. Reactionaries are everywhere, ever seeking an opportunity to bring the Republic to fall. And this is all about, you know, the guillotine, all these different things that happen, finding out who is causing the revolution to fail. Maybe, you know, some innocent people get caught up in it. But you can see the event here, execute the enemies of the revolution. Or the second option you could choose, show leniency. But that's obviously going to cause the revolution to keep kind of spiraling out of control anyway. And that might be worse than trying to actually go along with this as well. Now, one thing they call out here is every country that is not France will also have a slim chance to spawn characters inspired by Napoleon, Robespierre, and obviously other historical characters from this era. So you can have like an English Napoleon, imagine the wonders of that, or maybe even like a Prussian Napoleon. He'll have like an English name in that example, but he'll have similar stats and similar traits and things like that. So it isn't all just focused on France. It's a lot of what they've shown off here, and I guess in most examples, it probably will be in France in some version in your campaigns, but obviously it depends what's happened during the entirety of your campaign in EU5. But you will see these pop up somewhere else, and you can get, as I said, like an English Napoleon, and then see how that plays out in your campaigns. Having a crazy, you know, revolutionary England with English Robespierre, English Napoleon, and then seeing if the rest of Europe bands together and fights you off. Maybe a monarchist France, maybe a new 100 years war will happen, and you'll see how that plays out as well. But that's the end of this dev diary. Let me know what you think about it. I think some cool mechanics here. I don't think it's anything crazy different from EU4. As I've said, I think some of the mechanics are kind of similar, but I do like how this looks in the game. And again, it's very cool that it doesn't just happen in France. It does have a chance to spawn anywhere, and then even these other countries can be the leader of the revolution. And I think it's going to make the end game not get that stale. You know, there's always going to be these things happening. Hopefully a bunch of these countries interact with each other, these temporary alliances. As we were discussing, then you're going to get this web of like warfare going on. Hopefully the AI of the game leans into this, and you can just have some real chaos happening. Maybe it'll help players play to the end of the game instead of kind of tuning out after a while. But we'll see once the game releases. Not very far away now, so do let me know what you think about this dev diary. I think it all looks great, but we'll see obviously once we get to play it. But with that, hit the like button if you've enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've covered all the dev diaries, all the Tinto Talks, all the Tinto flavors leading up to the release of it. So if there is anything you see here and you want more information, maybe you've only just kind of heard of EU5 and you're just kind of starting this train of information, do go back on the channel. I've got a playlist of everything. If there's a certain feature you want to find out about, trading, how the economy works, how the population system works, all these have been covered previously, and there's been dev diaries covering all of these features. So you can go back, listen to those, or even follow the dev diaries. I always link those in the description so you can read them yourself, look through them. So when the game does come out, you'll get more knowledge, and then you'll get kind of a little bit of a head start, I guess, than if you hadn't done so. But anyway, I've kept you long enough today. I'll see you all next time.